On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla and EV podcast, Tesla Mod Shop Unplugged Performance's president and co-founder Ben Schaffer joins me for an interview about the company's approach to modifying the Cybertruck, the new Model 3 and the new Model Y, and their big bet on making Tesla police vehicles through their UPfit program. Enjoy. What's happening, friends? I, of course, am Ryan McCaffrey, and joining me, as always, is the great Daisy the Boxer, snoozing away. We had a big walk today. Good day for Daisy. Good day for me, too. It's beautiful outside. Spring has sprung. And with that, my daughter goes on spring break, and we have the very privileged fortune this year to be able to take a spring break trip. In fact, I may have said this last year because we did the same thing. But a little life pro tip that maybe is helpful to you. And maybe everybody but me already knew this, and I just stumbled on it last year. But just in case you don't already know this, as I didn't until a year ago, flying midweek is way cheaper than flying weekend to weekend. And the reason that I stumbled upon this is last year, my daughter's school has a 2-week spring break. And somehow we were trying to figure out what to do last year, and we were futzing around with flights and where do we want to go, and let's just see what it looks like on this day. Anyway, I came to find out that if we flew midweek to midweek, the airfare was so much cheaper, and so we're doing the same thing again this year. We're out midweek to midweek. I'm very grateful to be able to take that time. It's not something that I take for granted. And so here I am recording episode 504 for you quite early. And as always with these what I call vacation shows, I've prepared something in advance for you that I hope you will enjoy. As you'll hear momentarily, and as you already heard from the top, it is an interview, the second interview here on the podcast with Ben Schaffer. He's the founder. I erroneously said co-founder in the top of the show. That's my bad. The founder of Unplugged Performance, the Tesla Mod Shop. So I've got a conversation with Ben coming up. We didn't repeat any ground that we covered the last time he was on almost 3 years ago, because Unplugged Performance has had so much new cool stuff going on that I find interesting that I wanted to talk to Ben about. So I thought this was a great opportunity to do that, and that'll be coming up in just a couple minutes. I just want to say to all of you listening to this, I really appreciate all of you allowing me to step away and enjoy some relaxation time with my family. Hopefully you feel like I've earned it after those special podcasts from $4.99 to $5.01. But, I take this podcast really seriously. I do it in my spare time, but I take it very seriously. And so that's why I do this 52 weeks a year. And I'm not looking for a pat on the back. I'm not looking for your praise. I'm just saying that I am still a human being that needs some time away from time to time. Every now and again, it's nice to be able to step away and not have to worry about any work of any kind, whether it's the kind that I'm hired to do for my day job or the kind that I voluntarily choose to do in my free time. And so hopefully you'll enjoy this interview episode. If you don't, that's okay. I will take no offense. I will be back for episode 505 at its regularly scheduled time, just as this one is publishing at its regularly scheduled time, except on Patreon. I put this out extra early for the Patreon backers because, why not? I mean, it was done. Might as well send it out early to them. But 505 will be right on time. I'll be back live, as it were, and it will be just in time for the Q1 production and delivery numbers from Tesla. So that's going to be a fun episode because it's been an interesting quarter, right? With the Model Y changeover, and they've been blowing out the old Model Ys with some heavy discounts, and the new ones have been getting delivered since just started to trickle out at the beginning of the month, and it's starting to pick up a little bit now. So anyway, that'll be a good topic for when I get back. But for now, I hope you will enjoy this interview with Ben. But first, I just want to remind you about Accelerate Auto and their X-Care extended warranty option. Accelerate Auto is redefining the electric car extended warranty. They are not thinking outside the box. They instead have crushed and disassembled the box and built a geodesic dome instead. But looking ahead and building the future, it's not anything radical. It's what innovative organizations do. That's why these folks, who are, by the way, ex-Tesla employees, they developed X-Care, a comprehensive extended warranty designed exclusively for EVs. They also re-engineered the entire customer experience because, hey, you know how bad that can be in the wrong hands. Now, if you just want to cover your high voltage battery in your car and the drive unit, i.e. the most expensive components, your vehicle may qualify for that coverage either separately or in addition to a general bumper-to-bumper extended warranty. So best of all, if you're a Ride the Lightning listener, you can get $100 off when you select X-Care's one-time payment option. Just use the discount code LIGHTNING, and the website to go to, which is also, by the way, for convenience, it's in the episode description because they spell it a little funky, which no doubt helps with SEO. It's XCELERATEAUTO.com/Xcare, and Xcare is spelled Xcare. So again, check that out, or just click the link in the episode description. Play around with it, customize, see what term and what length and everything you want. I've got a 3-year, 40,000-mile extended warranty X-Care plan on my wife's. I got to get out of that habit. My wife's, it's hers now, on her 2018 Model 3 Performance. But you can go up to 10 years and up to 125,000 extra miles on that warranty. So it's very customizable. So again, check them out. The link is in the episode description. And remember the discount code LIGHTNING to get $100 off when you select X-Care's one-time payment option. All right, on with the interview. Enjoy. My guest this week, you've heard him here on Ride the Lightning before, welcoming back Ben Schaffer, the founder and top dog over at Unplugged Performance, the top line modifiers, customizers of all things in the world of Tesla. Ben, welcome back.
It's a pleasure to be here. I had a lot of fun last time, and I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, I had to look it up. We last chatted in the summer of 2022, so the better part of 3 years ago at this point. And as you and I were talking about before we hit the record button, that's kind of an eternity in Tesla time. And sure enough, you've been busy. So how have things been with the business since 3 years ago, since 2022?
Yeah, it's like thinking about a past life. 3 years ago, I was probably excited about racing at Pikes Peak and things like this. And our scope and our goals have, in some respects, I shouldn't say changed, they've expanded. I always have a soft spot for motorsports. That's our background. So yeah. I don't think I'll ever find, racing, or namely racing a Tesla and beating cars that in theory you shouldn't beat. I'll never find that not interesting. But at the same time, as an American entrepreneur who, runs a business to make ideally some societal impact, some societal good, there's always a hierarchy of what's the best thing you can do to help. And I think my viewpoint has evolved where the best thing to do to help humanity is not so much beat the crap out of Porsches with the family sedan. That was at one point in time the best I could do. But now I'm very compelled to make an impact, and our whole team is, for that matter, with Tesla police vehicles, Tesla defense vehicles, anything that relates to saving lives. And when we talk, internally, when we have our team meetings, I think I've used the phrase that how many lives we save is more interesting than how fast we go around a racetrack. Now, all these things are exciting, but I'm very excited about using Tesla to save lives, because it is a safer vehicle. to, have the environment be healthier and cleaner for, any town or city where Teslas are deployed, and ultimately it saves taxpayer money. So it seems to be the prudent thing to do. So we're all in on that.
Yeah, we're going to talk plenty about that. And that, truthfully, that was the thing that made me want to reach out to you again and talk about the Upfit program, because I've mentioned it on the podcast a number of times, and it's really cool what you're doing. And that's kind of going to be probably most of the second half of this interview. But I wanted to just back up for a second, because I wanted to give you a little more credit than you gave yourself there. You're talking about just going fast and beating Porsches. I mean, that in and of itself was very valuable for those earlier years. Again, we talk about 3 years ago, like earlier years, but it's because we needed to win over the hearts and minds of people that weren't interested in or doubted the capabilities of electric vehicles, right? So that's an important thing too.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that, and I agree. My background, I'm guessing 99.9% of your audience doesn't know me or know this, but my background, I started 25 years ago in college. And when I started, my interest, before there was EVs, my interest was Japanese cartooning, and I studied in Tokyo, and I was in the first Fast and the Furious movie and launched a business as a college student called Bulletproof Automotive, which oddly enough was, I was getting paid via X during the X PayPal merger. So I actually have a weird cross correlation with Elon's history before Tesla. But the point being, in that experience, I represented something at the time that was a passion of mine, which was Japanese cartooning in a world where that was also frowned upon. Right. And much like now, where people are saying disparaging things about Tesla, back then people were saying, "Oh, don't race me with that rice burner," or all these stupid things they would say. And it gave me a lot of experience to kind of understand how to advocate for something I believe in. And that feeling of being the underdog always stayed with me. And I think that gave a lot of perspective when in 2013, our neighbors over at Tesla knocked on our door and we started Unplugged. Because in 2013, it was different because it was EVs versus Japanese cars, but the feeling of adversity and understanding what it takes to advocate for a position you believe in was the same. And to your point, there was a point in time where people didn't expect us to have a family sedan that could beat these dedicated race cars. And that was a stage. Everything was a stage. In 2013, it was just show up at car shows and have fun, show up at the SEMA trade show as the only Tesla and show a new idea, show up at track day events and just have a good time. When we created Tesla Corsa, which now we've done more than 40 Tesla Corsa track day events around the world. Wow. All of these things were and are remain, I think, the building blocks of car culture and the building blocks of showing with real world experience and, a customer base that represents this lifestyle, showing that this is something that deserves a seat at the table. And I could tell you with certainty, because we're dealing with it now, bad experience in 2013, 2014 of people saying, get out of here with your EVs. They're not fast. They're not this. They're not that. Is the exact same it is right now with police and defense. It's always the same story. You always start from a position of, get out of here with this nonsense. I don't trust it. I don't believe it. And you always have to earn your position, not with, debate and words, but with facts. Yeah. Cars have to be better. The best product should win. And that's our viewpoint, is forget all the labels. Judge us on our lap times, judge us on how many officers, we help have a better experience. That's all that matters. The rest is noise.
Yeah, I think I made you tell your whole Fast and Furious related origin story the last time you were here. And it is quite a story for anybody that hasn't heard it, and how you sort of serendipitously ended up being neighbors with Franz von Holzhausen and the design studio team over at Tesla. Like you're literally, you can walk. I was there a couple of weeks ago, obviously, interviewing Franz for episode 500, and I had to scoot right out and get back home that night.
Yeah, you have no excuse. You had to come by.
I know. Otherwise, I could have literally walked over there in about 2 minutes. But
by the way, another weird fact is at the time during that filming, I was living in Arizona, but the filming for the street racing scene was on Prairie, which is a road 2 blocks from where the office is now. So it's really quite weird that I filmed out here, lived in Arizona, and then years later, I'm like, oh, I have an office like right where that was. It's quite weird.
Yeah, it's maybe we really are living inside a simulation. There's too many too many
It's
little
a
things that
it's a
like
pretty
that
crazy
crop up.
simulation. Whoever designed it is
Yeah.
very talented.
Yeah. No, and I'm so with you on it's funny you mentioned being a perennially feeling like you need to root for the underdog and advocate for the underdog. I found myself, I've psychologically realized that about myself too. Like sports wise, I grew up a Mets fan in New Jersey, and then Diamondbacks when I got to all Arizona sports teams because I
Yeah,
grew up in Arizona as well.
yeah,
Uh, and then I bought my dream car, which was a DeLorean, which is
yeah.
absolute underdog in the automotive
Badass
space at
car.
the
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
and really still is. Like the DeLorean still gets a pretty bad rap. I think it's gotten a little bit better over the years in terms of the reputation
Oh, I was always cool as hell as far as I'm
oh,
concerned.
it's still it's never been the fastest car, never will be. But boy, is it does it make people smile, and that's what I always loved about it. But and now to Tesla, right? Like Tesla's been. I mean, you could make the case that they're not the underdog anymore. I probably still would advocate for them being an underdog, given how even setting the recent sort of politically motivated discourse about Tesla aside, there's still so many people that don't know about Tesla that doubt it, that don't haven't really experienced it for themselves. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I kind of, I don't really wish this for myself, but I just am this naturally. I thrive when I have a challenge and I need
yeah,
to disrupt something, and I get bored when it's too easy. So I
yeah,
think for me, a lot of getting into police and defense, besides the fact that the product's compelling, was it was a new challenge. And for motorsports, the lap records that we set, a lot of them still hold. And the ones that don't hold are not really anything we can do with the car. It's more of a limitation of just the thermal capacity of the cars, the way they're produced.
right.
So I kind of felt like there was diminishing returns on disruption. And I really liked the process of forging new territory and proving things that people didn't expect. And I think I just somehow seek that out.
And I think that's a healthy thing because you're
I
always
don't know about
trying
that.
to, well, in the
I'm not
end,
sure
maybe in
it's
the long
healthy,
run,
but
maybe in the
it's pretty
short term, it
stressful.
hurts.
It's pretty stressful, but I just can't
Um,
help myself.
Before we get to upfit, because again, I have a lot I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
Since we last talked almost 3 years ago on the podcast, then the Cybertruck has finally shipped, and you want to talk about challenges, and that one, it's well, we've got the toughest truck in the world, and your challenge is how do you make it tougher? You've got your invincible line
Yep.
of
Yep.
accessories and upgrades for the Cybertruck. So, can you kind of talk a little bit about what you guys offer for Cybertruck and what
Sure.
inspired the work in on the Invincible line?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm of the belief, and I think it's pretty much common sense that engineering can be very magical. And the magic of engineering is really dependent on what target you go after. So I think our capabilities as it relates to motorsports and aerodynamics and all these things can be applied to any goal. And the Cybertruck is still engineering, but a different goal, different use case. So that was exciting. My background, as we just talked about, was always sports cars. It was always
Yeah.
going fast on the track. It was never off-road. And the idea of kind of refocusing our skill set towards a different use case was thrilling. For the kind of person that I am and the kind of business that I want to run, it was a great opportunity to do something new. So for the Cybertruck, I mean, I would say we're spoiled as a company because we choose our brands to work with carefully, and we chose Tesla very, you know, precisely, I think, and it was the right choice a long time ago. But we were starting with a vehicle that is leaps and bounds better than any other vehicle.
Yeah.
And for a company that modifies vehicles, having a great starting vehicle is a huge advantage. And the Cybertruck can do a laundry list of things that no vehicle can do at any price. And then the question is, how do you make it better? But I come from the mindset that there's no vehicle in the world that you can't make better, And part of the reason we can make stuff better is because in some respects we can cheat. And by cheating, what I mean is that we don't play by the same rule book as Tesla. Tesla has to
You're
play
not
by
mass
the
producing anything for one, right?
precisely. There's a couple of things. One, we're not mass producing, so we have the benefit of doing lower volumes and specialized things. The second benefit is that we don't have to abide by all of the crazy paperwork and laws of
Mm.
homologation of high volume manufacturing. So, for example, we can make bumpers out of steel and not worry about it. We can do a lot of things. I mean, our efficiency spoilers for the Model 3 and Model Y technically are a little bit too long off the back of the vehicle. They extend a little bit further past than the bumper. Or our front spoilers have a little bit less angle. So, there's this archaic rule that, it has to be a certain angle to be able to load onto a ferry for a vehicle. And that ferry requirement actually hurts efficiency on the car because the front of the cars end up being banana shaped. And really what you want is a fairly flat front lip for aerodynamics. You're creating front aero lift, which is not always ideal.
Yeah.
So we cheat. We cheat because we don't have to do mass produced stuff. We can do whatever we want. And that's a good place to be in if you like cars and if you like creating cool outcomes.
So yeah, give me a couple specific examples of what a listener of my podcast might be able to do to their Cybertruck if they wanted to take it to the next level by bringing it to
Oh
you
man,
guys.
there's so many things. I think, I'm excited about our lighting products. The Cybertruck's cool because it's native 48 volt, and we had to develop really one of the world's first 48 volt lighting systems as far as all kinds of different accessories. So we have a massive amount of lighting, everything from a light that's integrated into the hood, where the hood actually is a bit inspired by Franz's old sketches. But we basically created a positive space in the hood to house
Nice.
a 50-inch light bar that essentially is almost zero drag. So it's really efficient, and you get the same lighting as a major off-road light bar, but in the hood. That's pretty cool. Our bumpers are all steel. Our side rockers are all steel. We have Molly panels that attach that are steel. Everything, the idea about a Cybertruck being this badass thing inspired the name Invincible. We wanted to make something that was really felt invincible. So everything is more ruggedized. Our wheels are all forged wheels. We have a police wheel that's forged. We have a bead-lock wheel that's forged. We have a bunch of different wheels that all have crazy load ratings and are nearly indestructible. Across the board, we just took something that was already like 10 out of 10 badass and turned it up to 11, as they say. And yeah, across the board, there's just so much you can do with the Cybertruck. And we've made so many different products that span from off-road to on-road to police to defense. And a lot of the parts are the same. A lot of the stuff we're doing for off-road transfer over to defense. And we have more stuff coming still. We have a lot more stuff coming. So it's an awesome platform.
Oh, that was my next question. Is the Invincible line done, or are you still going? Sounds like there's still plenty to go.
I don't know what's ever done. Yeah, I'm not sure anything's ever done. We just added carbon doors to Dark Helmet. And Dark Helmet was kind of done, and we're still adding more carbon fiber to that. I think we never really stopped with anything.
Well, yeah. Well, what's I guess until the next car comes out, right? Until or at
Yeah,
least a
then we
newer
slow
version
down.
of the same car.
Yeah, and by the way, I just got the new Model Y, which is fantastic, and we're hard at work at that. But that is another new car. It's amazing.
Yeah, I've been seeing your social posts. It looks like you're starting with you're throwing some forged wheels on there. Is that one of the? Not that that's a Y specific product necessarily, but that's one thing you've been going for right away on the new Y.
Yeah, the new Model Y is a conversation. Is a conversation in itself. I'll say at first, our approach for the Model Y is I definitely think there's always various use cases for wheels and tires. Wheels and tires are a vital part of the vehicle, from aesthetic to function to range to off-road capability, whatever you want to do. So first thing we did, I mean, we were ready. We were ready for the car early. I went up to Fremont for the launch event. Flew up that morning and drove it back the same night back to LA.
Nice.
It was a fun day. And yeah, the next day we fit an 18-inch set of wheels, a 19-inch, a 20-inch, a 21, and a 22-inch set. We had them all ready with tires mounted up. We put them all on. We're documenting the whole process, and it's one of those things where the aftermarket and what we do is a beautiful thing because there is not a right answer and a wrong answer. It's use case dependent. We
Right.
could, we have a lift kit for the Model Y where we could make it into a lifted off-road or put beadlock wheels on it. We also have, I'm driving it around LA, so I put 22s on it because it looks badass, and I figured why not? We're going to be lowering it, which will help range a bit, and we're going to be doing things to make it even more comfortable. We'll have some clients who want to race it, and we have race suspension for it as well. We're doing a lot on the police front, so we're going to have a lot of these new Model Ys in police departments, so we're building for that. A Model Y being the best-selling car in the world should have multiple use cases, and
Sure.
our advantage is that we can tackle those. Whereas Tesla, rightfully so, should be focused on just economies of scale and getting efficient, production, getting the cost down, bringing shareholder value. But we're doing all the crazy stuff that happens after that.
Cybercab got announced since you and I last chatted as well. That's, of course,
Yeah.
the most recent product announcement from the company. Now,
Yeah.
that vehicle has a very specific purpose, and that purpose has nothing to do with performance, nothing to do with off-roading, nothing to
Yep.
do with being tough. Is there do you see any
Yes.
potential in the Cybercab for
Of
what
course.
you guys do at Unplugged Performance?
Of course. You know this. Absolutely. There's no bounds to what you can do to make something better and more specialized. 100%. And I think my viewpoint is one of the misconceptions that people think about Cybercab is that they don't think about the Model Y or the Cybertruck in the same idea. But to me, they're all robotaxis already in my mind. In
True.
fact, one of this is going to be really counterintuitive, but one of the eye-opening experiences for me at the Cybercab launch event on 1010, and I'm grateful I was there. And actually, our Cybertruck was there as well. I think we're the only non-Tesla vehicle being driven around at that event. Pretty cool, by the way, to see the upfit Cybertruck next to the Cybercab in that city. But the point I'm going to make is I got to ride in the Cybercab a lot at that event, and it was awesome. But I had a more transformative experience riding in a Model Y than in a Cybercab, which you might think, or someone might think, oh, that's weird. The Cybercab should be the brain exploder, eye-opening thing,
Yeah.
but it was the Model Y. And the reason for that is that my wife daily drives a Model Y. And I got in the Model Y after getting in 5 Cybercabs in a row, basically. And I sat in the passenger seat with no driver. And it was the exact same Model Y that I own.
Yep.
And it did the exact same thing the Cybercab did. And there was something very eerie about realizing my car and millions of cars on the road are a Cybercab. It's just a different form factor, but it does the same thing. And to me, that was more interesting because all of those theoretically can be flipped on just like a Cybercab. But the difference is we're all used to it and don't see it that way. And once you start seeing it that way, it's like, oh, wow, like this is what it's about. The Cybercab is the perfect use case for that. But the idea that all of these cars that people think of as cars become something entirely different is really eye-opening to me.
So where I think you're going with this is whether it's the Cybercab or offering as an option on the existing Tesla fleet that will be cybercabified, robo-taxified. So I'm hearing that you're going to do some new interior options maybe with built around the idea of not needing a driver. Am I sparking up the wrong tree here?
I think interior is always a category that can be modified no matter what. And I think as autonomy goes further and further, interiors start to become more like classes of hotel room. You could think of it in that way.
Yeah.
But that being said, our focus, and you're starting to see it, if you follow us closely, you're going to start to see it more and more on our products, is that we're developing products that are kind of crossover between police and daily driven use that are just more durable and have more uptime. So for example, we recently released our forged police wheel that looks like a police steely, but is a lightweight forged 18-inch wheel. We released that to the public and it's less than $2,000 for a set of forged wheels. And you basically have a wheel that's indestructible. I mean, it's so indestructible, actually, if anyone finds a way to break it, we'll give them a free one. Like that's how indestructible it is. The idea there is that police departments drive their cars really crazy. They don't care about curbs. They jump right over them. They get in chases. And a factory wheel, as good as it is for mass production, is a cast wheel and doesn't have as much protection and durability that you need for a police officer. Now, that idea transfers over to robotaxi pretty well. But with that being said, we have another wheel launching that I'm excited about that'll be even better than that. And that'll be really what I consider to be a robotaxi focused wheel that will be the right price point, will look badass, and will be fairly indestructible, but also easy to maintain. And I think maintenance is important. One of the cool things about the Cybercab that I like is no paint or infused paint, in essence, into the plastics. This is all where my mind is at, is, these kinds of things that drive total cost of ownership, in a positive direction, reduce complexity, reduce maintenance, increase uptime. And I think our mind of developing around that for police transfers well to robotaxi and transfers well to daily drivers. So there's a lot of stuff in that category that can be done.
Before we get to upfit, the other car, again, Tesla's been busy the last few years since you and I chatted. The Model 3 got refreshed. I just got one. I've got the new Model 3 Performance. So I'm
So
curious.
good.
I imagine you guys have been going back to the performance side of things, eking even more track focused performance out of the newer, better Model 3 Performance than ever before. Yes.
The Model 3 Performance is the best driver's car Tesla makes. It's the perfect car. It's so good. Yeah,
I
and the
love
Model 3
mine.
Performance, the new one, we have two at the shop. We built one into a track car and one into kind of a street car, and they're both ridiculously good. And yeah, our Model 3 track car, equivalent driver is equal to or faster than the Porsche 911 GT3, the current generation one, which is not bad for a Model 3. It's a hell of a car, and yeah, we're doing the same stuff we always do. Upgraded brakes, motorsport suspension, a little bit of light aerodynamics. We're able to do less aero than the GT3 has. They have a huge wing, we have a smaller wing, but it's very, very, very capable. And yeah, we love that, and we love taking that out to the track.
Oh, good stuff. Um, you've now gotten big enough where you've got big name celebrity clients coming to you guys as well. You were posting recently, you did a Model S Apex, the plaid for Joe Rogan. What was that?
Yeah.
Must have been a fun process, especially when you got to actually hand the car over to him.
Oh, I love Joe. Yeah, Joe's the best. Yeah, it was the first time we found out about Joe. He was, I think the first time he mentioned us, he was interviewing Elon years ago, and he brought us up out of the blue, and that made me a little bit nervous, to be honest, because I wasn't expecting it for one. And he starts pulling up the website and talking about us. And then after that, I always wanted to meet him, but I never knew how to reach him. And then years later, he reached out and wanted us to build this car. That at that point, he had talked about 3 or 4 times. He just never wanted to order one or never reached out. And
Yeah.
I thought it was a joke. I thought it was like, oh, like some weird person just like trying to mess with me and saying he's Joe Rogan. And then I got him on the phone and realized, oh, this is this is Joe Rogan. He wants us to build him a car. It is great. He's super fun to build with. He and I text back and forth frequently, and I had a lot of fun delivering the car and seeing him at his house. And he was gracious enough to let us film a little bit, which was fun. And yeah, super awesome guy. It's really fun customer.
What'd you do with his car? What's in that thing? I saw there's a von Holzhausen interior in there, right? The
Yeah,
bamboo, I think he's
yeah,
got
yeah,
going on.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the S Apex is probably the furthest away you can get from Tesla's idea about scale and efficiency. It's like unbelievably inefficient. We customize everything, so every interior is different based on the style and preferences of the owner, and the exterior is at this point almost all carbon fiber and a lot of custom body work to integrate it to make it look like it came from the factory that way. So yeah, the interior, we had Vicky von Holzhausen make a one-off roll for us of a white bamboo, which they hadn't done before. And then Joe and I had the idea to make it look a little bit more luxurious. So it's like a cross between, the new sport plaid seats, and it feels a little bit like a Bentley or a
Yeah.
Maybach or something with the diamond stitching and the perforation and everything. So just a really, I think, understated, classy, but still aggressive daily driver. And that was the thing. Joe's got, a huge car collection. He's a
Yeah.
big car guy. And it wasn't just, oh, let me get a car and put it in my garage and have it sit there. Like he wanted this car to be his daily driven car that he drives every day, which is a lot of stress for me because, that's the kind of client where if you make a mistake, the whole world hears about it. If
Right.
they like it, also the whole world hopefully hears about it. And thankfully, he's been really happy. And yeah, the car's got a lot of custom stuff. We did a full custom paint job and just did a bunch of little details that, that's the fun of doing one-off stuff is you get to really know someone well and you get to, build something that's unique.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask is like that's got to be just all the rules go away, right? Because there's not necessarily a budget per se, and you can just kind of go wherever his imagination and your imagination takes you, and that must have been a super fun project.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a budget, and people sometimes get this confused. This is a paid job. There was
Oh,
no
sure.
promo on this. It was a full fare, job, which I respect the hell out of Joe for that, because sometimes people in that position take advantage and just say, "Oh, I have this
Mm.
many fans and I want everything free." But no, Joe came as a retail client, and the budget was reasonable and we built to that budget, and it's super fun.
So, all right, upfit. I'm so fascinated by this. You've mentioned it a couple times already, because I've been mentioning for the last 3-4 years or so now of various police departments that have used the Model Y as a patrol vehicle or whatnot. I think Bargersville, Indiana, that was kind of the first one that got publicity, and they've talked about how the economics of it have been great, which all of us as Tesla people, we're like, of course it is, because
Yeah,
we live with it
yeah,
every day. So
for sure.
what inspired you to want to get into the police and defense building business?
Well, we started. I'm not sure I can say the name of the company, but we started with a local neighbor of ours and built some security cars for them with
Yeah.
Model 3s. And that opened our eyes to the idea of a Tesla being good for security. And then through just, serendipity and happenstance, I don't know, we ended up getting contacted by South Pasadena, which is a crazy first customer to have, because still to this date, they're the only police department, I think, maybe in the world that went from 100% gas to EV. And they tasked us with that job, which was, most of these times you kind of dip your feet in the water and do one here, one there. The
Right.
first customer was entire fleet. So that was an amazing experience. And it was not easy because we had to develop a really robust product and a whole new product line around it. But that taught us a lot. And most importantly, gave us a lot of feedback, because it's a small department, but it's still 20 vehicles all in one go. So that was really helpful for us. And we were a bit lucky that they entrusted us to do it. But in the process of doing that, I realized that this is a market that is very much misunderstood in terms of Tesla and the benefits of Tesla, but also is ripe for disruption, because as we evaluated what police cars exist, there's nothing even nearly as good. And in particular, someone who, in my case, have advocated for clean technology and for the attributes of Tesla's mission, one of the things that stuck with me that I frequently bring up, because it's just easy to stick with someone, is that about 2/3 of all of the gas spent that taxpayers pay for is not driving anywhere, it's idling.
Wow.
And when you think about how much tax money is spent and how much pollution is put in the air for a car not to go anywhere, it's hard to not feel motivated to disrupt that. And I think from our viewpoint, it was a necessary challenge. And we had one customer, which is, somewhat lucky, but a lot of hard work to fulfill the order. But then it became a question of how do we bet the entire business on this? In much the same way that my founding company, Bulletproof, bet the business on Unplugged in 2013, we decided to basically bet Bulletproof and Unplugged on upfit when there wasn't really that many customers. So we're all in on it. And we're all in on it because we know our vehicles are better. And every officer that drives it conveys that, and they reorder. So we got the recipe.
So how did South Pasadena PD come to you? Like where's the origin of that deal?
So crazy how things link up. In the moment, everything seems random and strange, and you look back and you find these strange connections. One of the reasons they were confident in us is because they followed our Pikes Peak journey, which you would never connect the dots between motorsports and Pikes Peak and police cars, but they saw our determination and our grit the first year where we, Randy, by no fault of his, crashed our Model 3, and we bent the frame and destroyed the front and rear of the vehicle entirely. And we rebuilt that car in 2 days and got to the top of the mountain. That got seen by a lot of people, and I never really knew if that was, economically wise what we had to go through. But it was goodwill and it was important for the mission. But they cited that as a reason why they trusted us to take on the project. Aside from that, South Pasadena has a history of being a very green city. They have a lot of initiatives, everything from their gardeners using electric versus gas for leaf blowers and things like that, to across the board, they're very focused on a clean environment. So they had a natural interest in it. But the hardest thing with this is people taking a chance. Most departments will take a big chance. For most departments is doing 4 cars, a pilot program. For them, they deserve all the credit for taking the risk. And it could have gone poorly, but they trusted us, and thankfully we delivered.
And that kind of goes for really anybody that's making the jump to EV for the first time, right? Like, you are taking a chance if you've been driving gas cars your whole life, and you don't really fully understand. You know just as well as I do. You don't know the full ins and outs, the good stuff, and maybe the things that are still improving before you jump in. Like you, it's so there is kind of that leap of faith, and that's cool that they were willing to do that. I love that. That's such a great thing. So I'm curious when you get this contract and you go about you start the upfit program, do you reach out to either the handful of other police departments around the country that have done a police vehicle with a Tesla already to kind of see what they've learned, or do you kind of just take a clean sheet approach to it?
It's a mix. Certainly, there's a lot we can learn from any industry. So I started going to events and trade shows and talking to as many people as I could, as did some of our team. But also, there was a lot being done incorrectly. And one of the challenges of any industry, in particular police, was yes, there was some interest for police outfitters to put parts on Teslas, but they didn't have, and it's no fault of theirs, they didn't have the interest to understand the differences of a Tesla at a very like architectural level.
Yeah.
And most of these outfitters, they see a contract and they have their vendors and they say, oh, okay, another car, I'll build it. And the problem is a Tesla is very different than building a Ford or a GM or anything else they're used to doing. And as a result, there's a lot of bad habits in there and a lot of bad outcomes, which actually, our biggest risk to growing upfit isn't teaching departments that Tesla is viable. It's overcoming mistakes of other companies building Tesla police cars and bad stories and PR that come from that, because they're just not going to. We've had to invest millions of dollars into engineering these cars for police use that go beyond what you see with wheels. We're developing PCBs and changing the power behaviors of the car. These are things that are not super intuitive. And I wouldn't expect a shop that, has built 1,000 Fords, but has an order for 4 Teslas to try to understand or even to know what to look for.
Yeah.
But the reality is that departments can and have had bad experiences when the cars are not built, in this way. And no one made those products. Just like in 2013 when we started Unplugged, there were no products to distribute because no one had made anything for EVs, so we had to build them. This is the same problem. So in cases where products existed, we use them. So we use Wheelin for the light bars. They're a leader in police stuff, and they're a great partner. We've used some stuff from Satina when it's appropriate, which is another police vendor. But most of the time, we're ending up building our own stuff. And some of that's because it doesn't exist and, is unique to Tesla. And some of that is that it does exist, but it's not good enough. So we've, developed our own center consoles, for example, that are quite frankly just better. They're lower, they have integrated USB-C charging, they have the Tesla key and the phone fast charger built into them. These are things that no one else is going to build. So we have to do a lot of that.
So you've started to answer this question already. The perfect segue. I know you could probably talk about this for an hour on its own, but in a relatively concise version, what physically goes into doing an upfit vehicle?
Well, there's a ton of lighting and communication. So we use a vendor from a well-known rocket company that we all like that makes our harnesses for us. So we built our own harnesses. So we run those. Our own integration of some existing stuff, but customized for lighting and controls. And then our wheel tire package, and brake package. Our brakes are the same as our race cars.
Nice.
And we not only can compete, but we can beat at pursuit rating levels performance. So we have our sway bars, our brake package from our motorsports side of the business. We have a dedicated wheel tire package for police use that is, as I mentioned earlier, basically indestructible. And then we have also an optional lift kit when needed for suspension. Interiors totally changed, center consoles, rear seat partitions for having prisoners in the back if need be. We built out the first, as far as I know, Tesla K9 vehicle as well, which is a whole bunch of engineering challenges. There's a long list of stuff. The computer side of things, power management. A lot of police departments, if they go to a random place, they don't know and they wouldn't know that the cars are not 12 volt, they're 16 volt on the new cars. So they're frying electronics. So they don't know how to deal with that. That's just one nuance of many, but the Teslas also have power management where they sleep over a period of time, and you can't have a police car sleeping when your comms are running. So there's a lot of stuff that we had to develop around, some more complicated than others.
How many have you delivered cars to South Pasadena yet? And if so,
The
I'm
whole fleet,
curious. Well, go ahead.
the whole fleet, they have them all.
Everything.
Yeah.
So what feedback have you received so far? I'm curious.
Well, I always feel bad quoting someone who deserves their own quote, but I could distill some of it. Um, they are saving a ton of money in energy utilization, massive amount. They have a high level of uptime. So the whole subject of total cost of ownership, it's a win. They knew it was a win, and it's proven to be a win. The performance of the cars in chases are unlike anything I've ever seen. They've had comments regarding not only high speed, when I can't give specifics or numbers, but
Sure.
high speed also in the wet. As you know, a Tesla is just remarkably stable.
Yeah.
The torque vectoring on dual motor cars, there's nothing more stable than a chase. Um, comfort, the officers like them. They mentioned that it's been a recruiting tool for younger officers because they get to drive Teslas. That's also an appeal for police departments. And one of the things that surprised me that I thought was a negative, it turned out to be a positive, was they like using the superchargers to charging. They don't have to, but they like it. And they like it because part of the job of policing is having community outreach and being a part of your community. And being at the supercharger, it's a goodwill thing to show up in a really cool Tesla police car and talk to others. That's also part of the job is to be a great member of the society and to, communicate with others. So a lot of good. But the key thing that they told me, which, really recalibrated my mind on this, is that above the fuel savings and above the performance, officer safety is the most important metric for buying cars.
Absolutely.
And these cars are definably the safest cars to put officers in. And as Tony Abdallah, who was in charge of the program there, said, it just is not a wise choice to buy anything less safe when you could buy something more safe. And that I think is more important than cost savings or anything else.
Yeah, I mean they start as the safest cars in the world before you lift a finger and do anything to them. And I imagine that they are probably I mean, hopefully there's not going to be crash or injury data, but if and when that happens, I would imagine the data will very much bear that out. That's that's definitely, I hadn't even thought about that. That's a great point.
All credit to Lars and the whole team at Tesla for the crash safety. There's not much left to do there. The car is just inherently safe. So I can take credit for the police stuff, but the safety stuff I take zero credit for. That is all Tesla engineering.
So you a video that you put out recently, I played a couple of clips of it on the podcast because I found it really interesting, is you took I believe it was the LA County Sheriff's Department out for a track day of sorts recently with it's from the video you had several vehicles there, but it looked like it was mostly the Model Y that the officers were playing with. So can you talk about how that came to, because that's just that in and of itself has got to be kind of a little bit of a victory, to your point earlier about just getting people, just getting butts in seats, getting to try it. You're getting a lot of their resources, a lot of their people out for what I imagine was probably half a day or something like that. So can you kind of talk about how that came to be?
Yeah, it's actually even better than that. When they gave us the opportunity to have them evaluate Teslas, we asked how big their classroom was and how many people we could put in the classroom. And they gave us a number. I think they said it was 20. And we then filled the classroom with no more than 2 people from as many different departments as we could. So we had 8 different police departments they represented by roughly 2 per department, plus their whole EVOC training team. And all of them were there not to get sold. We didn't pitch anything. We just said, hey, here are some different vehicles. You're used to driving what you have. What do you think about these?
Yeah.
And the most remarkable thing was that they allowed us to and agreed to have us film all of it. So we had GoPros in the cars and video all around, and they were speaking into the camera, sharing in the beginning of the day their skepticism. And throughout the day, you can watch 8 different departments and their whole training facility go from, well, I don't know about this and that, and I'm skeptical, to by the end of the day, we had a download session and it was recorded on this video. Like, unanimous praise, like unbelievable. And as a Tesla driver, you and I already know it's not even a fair comparison to compare, a Ford Explorer or
Right.
whatever their equivalent is to a Model Y. You already know the answer before you start. But
Yeah.
for them, they're skeptical, and that's fair. They should be skeptical. And that experience of driving it through these different environments on the same track, benchmarked against the same cars they know with the same instructors, no smoke and mirrors, just exactly apples to apples comparison. You watch on this video their experiences, and by the end of the day, them, just gushing over how great of a platform it is and not wanting to go back to their existing cars. It was the most interesting video I think we ever did.
Like I said, I was riveted. Yeah, that's why I wanted to play some of it on the podcast. And uh, did this is maybe an unfair question because I don't know if it's fair for me to ask you about your business this way, but I'm curious if you got any orders that day. Because even though I believe you 100% when you said you didn't go there to sell vehicles or
Yeah.
sell anything, but I wonder if that has that translated has those changed minds translated into any additional upfit orders?
Yeah, I mean, I was there with our team, and our instructions were that we were not going to talk any business that day at all, and that
Yeah,
was intentional
that's
because we
fair.
wanted it to be a pure experience share. I think it devalues the experience if you're there saying, "Oh, and it costs this, and you save
Right.
that." Like, I
Yeah.
just wanted people to just drive the car and talk about it, and thankfully, like, share the experience with others. But I would say since then they walked away with an interest for sure. How could you not? And the complexity around selling police cars versus selling aftermarket products is police cars require a long, long cycle of, a lot of people and, government budgets and, town hall meetings and politics and God knows what. And, the average sales cycle for a police car can be 6 months or more. So it's
Wow.
one of those things where we have a whole different team to deal with that because it's an entirely different process. The education on that side, the sales cycle on that side, the configuration. Every car is different from every department. They all want different stuff. The training, we go out and actually train these guys on how to use the cars. We host training events like the one in that video. After sales support, integration and support with Tesla, everything from infrastructure to after sales service. Like we have to kind of guide them and support them through the whole experience. And we are also, selling infrastructure. We're providing high speed charging. We're providing, even fleet management software after the fact. It's really, the vehicle is a product. It's different than the
Sure.
aftermarket. And you think, oh, there's a steel bumper for a Cybertruck for Unplugged. We're selling a turnkey vehicle and experience the same way a consumer buys a Tesla Model Y. We're trying to deliver police departments. You pay a flat price of X and you get everything end to end. And there's no surprises and everything's managed. And that's a really hard thing to do.
And I got to figure, I mean, this is like maybe a silly, obvious thing to say, but you talked about betting the company effectively on this
Yeah.
upfit program, but the sky's the limit on this, right? Because so far you've got South Pasadena has converted their fleet, and there are thousands upon thousands of other police departments, fire departments, etc., around the country, let alone the world. So you've got to be feeling like you're in the first days of whatever this phase of unplugged performance is going to be.
Absolutely. The thing we just talked about, how you and I know that if you drive a Model Y and you drive a Ford Explorer back to back, you already know the answer. That's our entire business. I already know the answer is that we have a better product. Now, there are challenges of how to scale that. There are challenges of how to communicate that. There are challenges of how to navigate, politics and perception and all these things that cloud what should be otherwise a pretty binary black and white decision on paper. But if you measure the product, we will keep officers safer and give them a better vehicle for the job at the right price. That's a given at this point.
Yeah.
We got the formula. So how we scale that is the complex part, and that's a lot of work. It's hard work to do, but I'm excited about it. And then I'm super excited. By the way, you didn't bring it up, but I should bring it up. Las
Please.
Vegas. Have you heard about the Las Vegas deal? That is
Yes,
crazy.
I
Yeah,
did
that's
see
super
that.
cool. So yeah, Las Vegas, and everyone likes to get outraged for whatever reason they can, because people like outrage these days. The Las Vegas deal is hard to get outraged about because it cost taxpayers zero. It was all funded by Ben Horowitz, and that is a 11 Cybertruck police fleet deal, privately funded from a benefactor. And Las Vegas has the most advanced police force in the country because of Ben and other donors. They utilize Skydio drones, which are amazing. They're like close to Minority Report level police, where they're solving crimes really fast. And they came to us to do a full fleet of Cybertrucks, which is going to be incredible, including a Bearcat SWAT replacement Cybertruck using our defense products. So that's super exciting. The Vegas thing will be more exciting in the news than the South Pasadena thing was, just because when you see a whole fleet of Cybertrucks, including an armored one, it's hard to not be something. You're going to feel something. Hopefully it's a good thing, but you're definitely going to feel something seeing it.
I mean, the bulk, no doubt, the lion's share of the vehicles that you're going to do with Upfit are going to be Model Y.
Yes.
And Tesla, as we all know, and you just mentioned from taking delivery of yours, the new Model Y is out.
Yes,
so
correct.
Everything Pasadena has is already outdated. And in a sense, obviously, you gave them great cars.
They're still more modern than the alternative non-Tesla. I would say they're still very futuristic compared to that. But yeah, so, they're a gen behind. Yeah.
I mean, the Y, the new one, as you well know, it's much quieter. It's much more comfortable than the old car. It's a bit more efficient than the old Model Y. Yeah. Does the new Y, in your personal and professional experience so far, offer anything that will make it a tangibly better law enforcement vehicle, or is it just kind of going to be a little bit more comfortable for the officers at the end of the day?
I feel awkward from a branding standpoint because it's too damn good. You expect the police car to be kind of clunky and not that well refined, and the Model Y has the benefit of being like, Mercedes S-Class like luxury at a price point that is just hard to fathom. So it's actually, from an optics standpoint, it's too nice for the price point, which is kind of a weird problem to have. But I would say, for policing, most of the new benefits are not super vital for policing. They're mostly comfort. So I'm not sure it matters for policing necessarily. Right. I might change my mind as we build some police cars. We're only a few days into it. There might be some benefits for policing. There's definitely no downsides I can see for policing, other than it just looks too luxury, and that's actually a problem. There's
as like do you mean like as an optics thing with the tax-paying public on that, or
precisely? Yeah. So we at one point or another have had meetings with police departments where they say, like we know the cars, cost $40,000 or whatever, but everyone thinks they're really expensive, and that makes us look bad. And I'm like, all right, I don't know how to solve the fact that these cars are priced well and are really good value for the money, and that's bad optics. But the fact is, the cars are priced well, so I can't really solve that for you. But it actually is a weird optics thing where people think of Tesla as a luxury brand, and then people get outraged, as people like to get outraged, and they say, "Oh my God, taxpayer money on Tesla," and then they actually don't look at the numbers, and it actually saves money versus The market right now is led by Ford. So I use the Ford Explorer as an example because it's the most popular police car.
Yeah.
But when you benchmark total cost of ownership of our Model Y versus the Ford Explorer, it's not a luxury purchase. But the optics of it, we're in a world where perception sometimes matters more than fact, and it's hard to deal with.
On that note, I was thinking about this, and it's like, oh, well, and you having been in Arizona too, I wonder, so as I recall as a kid, and I definitely had a poster of this, but like I believe must have been the Scottsdale Police Department, and there are police departments around the country that have done this, where they'll have like an exotic car. Like I feel like I had a poster on my wall as a kid of a Lamborghini Countach police car that they'll use for PR and stuff. So can we expect a next-gen Tesla Roadster upfit police car from you guys at some point down the road?
You have to ask Ben Horowitz, pretty please. Someone's got to pay for it. But I'm pretty sure whatever the Countach was probably some drug lord that they confiscated or something. That's, I think, usually where they get these cars, they confiscate them. So, hopefully no one's, doing nefarious things out of their roadster and gets confiscated. But if they do, I'm happy to take it and put a light bar on it and bring it out to the drag strip or whatever people do for outreach.
Sounds good. I guess the last thing before I let you go is just that since you were last on the podcast, the business hasn't just grown in terms of the vehicle output and what you're up to, but you've opened your second location up in my neck of the woods here, not too far from the Fremont factory itself, about 45 minutes from my house. So how has that been having a second location, and can we expect more unplugged performance locations around the country here for my listeners that might not necessarily live in LA or the Bay Area?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that shout out. I wasn't going to bring that up, but that is a cool detail. First of all, we ship everywhere in the world, and most of our parts are designed to be easily installed. The concept of Unplugged from the beginning was to do modifications that can go on a car, even on a lease, and then come off and not have any impact. So we're not selling things that require cutting or anything crazy. So I personally don't think installation locations are a vital need, although I understand people wanting to have the confidence of going to the manufacturer to do the install. I respect that. In terms of locations, we get asked all the time. The problem I have with selecting locations is that you're really making a bet on a person. And if you choose the wrong person, then your whole brand globally is tied up on the outcome of one person in one place.
Yeah,
and
I'm
I'm not in a spot where if I choose the wrong person or something unexpected happens, that I can relocate my life to turn it around, or tell one of my employees, okay, we have this location, we need to turn it around, go live there. So there's the downside really outweighs the upside of doing a lot of locations. Unplugged in Fremont just happened to work out where the guy that runs it, Derek, is an amazing guy. He was a manager at Tesla for a long time, and it was a bet on him. It wasn't a location bet; it was a person bet. And I think with the right person, we can make that bet. But it's really case by case. I mean, I've wanted to open in Texas forever. I've wanted to open in a lot of places forever, but a lot of it's a bet on a person, because at the end of the day, a brand experience is more important than any incremental revenue. It's really about keeping confidence no matter what. That's more important than anything.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So there you go. Ride the Lightning audience. If you're in Texas, I'm presuming maybe the Austin area specifically, and
absolutely,
you've got the itch to and the chops to run a business, and you're excited about Tesla and Unplugged Performance. You got to reach out to Ben. You never know what could happen. Maybe he'll place a bet on you. Ben Schaffer, the founder and head of Unplugged Performance. Ben, where can we find you on social, the company website, all that stuff? Give yourself a plug here.
Oh man, we're everywhere online. Just look up Unplugged Performance, Unplugged Tesla, Upfit. And I'm posting a little bit more these days on X, so you can check me out too. Ben Schaffer, UP, I think is my handle there. But we're around. Come find us. Check out what we're doing. Every week it changes, so there's always something new to see.
That's the fun part. Ben, thank you so much. You're in the rare club. You're a two-time guest. You're in the Franz Club of two-time guests here on Ride the Lightning. Thank you very much, my friend.
It's an honor as always. Thank you, Ryan.
This is Bill Daniels, the voice of Light Industries 2000, or KIT. You're listening to Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast. Happy electric motoring.
It is always a pleasure talking to Ben, either on the air or off the air. He is a really passionate guy about what him and his company are doing, and I just think it comes through when you talk to him about what they're up to. And the upfit stuff, I find it super fascinating what they're doing with various police departments. And boy, they got that contract, an entire city, that is awesome, converted over to Tesla police vehicles. Awesome stuff. If you're, of course, interested in what stuff Unplugged sells that you might want to put on your car, suspension kits, wheels, all kinds of different stuff, certainly I'll give Ben a plug. Unpluggedperformance.com is where you want to go to check that out. I will get back to your phone calls from the Ride the Lightning hotline on next week's episode, but for now, I just wanted to give you an entertainment recommendation. I do apologize that this one is only for the grown-ups. Parental discretion advised here, but I wanted to recommend Daredevil Born Again on Disney+. I will confess, I actually didn't watch Daredevil when it was on Netflix. Heard it was good, just never watched it. I did watch The Punisher. I think I came to that later, but loved that because, man, John Bernthal just crushes it. He's so good as Frank Castle. But I've been hearing really good things about the new Daredevil, and so I was like, I'm just going to give this a try. I'm just going to jump right into it because, quite frankly, I just don't have the time/patience to watch from the beginning of the original Netflix show. So I just jumped in, having known like a little bit about the characters, but it is fantastic so far. I mean, I think as I'm recording this, I've listened to, I'm in podcast mode. I think I've watched the first 4 episodes of Born Again. It's really good. It's definitely, again, parental discretion advised. It is not a family-friendly Disney Plus show, but I think it is fantastic. So give that a look if you're interested. Time for your Tesla Pro Tip of the Week. It comes from Ed in St. Louis. Ed, the floor is yours.
Hey, Ryan. This is Ed Corey from St. Louis, and I was calling with a pro tip as I passed a signature Model S in my 2020 Model Y. And my car did not come with the pedestrian warning speaker, but the Model Y, since the 2020, it actually had the wiring present. So you can go and request a retrofit of that speaker, costs around $110, and then you get the boombox feature on your early 2020 Model Ys. Thought that would be cool and a good safety thing to have because I don't know about others, but I got little kids, so always good to be nice and safe in the car. Take care and talk to you all later.
This is a great pro tip because I expect that not a lot of people know about it, since Tesla doesn't proactively reach out to you to let you know that you can get this for a fee. I will say I didn't know about this, so I am adding this one to my knowledge bank, which I'm always grateful to do. And honestly, I think that's a pretty reasonable price, and I realize that not everyone will want to pay it, but it's great to know about so that people have the option. Thank you so much for calling in and for sharing this one. And if anybody else out there has a good Tesla Pro Tip of the Week, something not obvious about your car that you've discovered or that you find useful, I would welcome and invite you to call in with it. And the way to call in with it is the same way that you call in with the regular Ride the Lightning hotline calls, which I realize since I didn't do those this week, I didn't give you the 2 call-in instructions. So I'll do that now real quick. If you've either got a phone call, question, comment, discussion topic, or a pro tip, you can call in one of 2 easy ways. Either use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software, record the question or pro tip, and please try to keep it to 90 seconds or less. That is my humble request to you. That's so that I can get to as many callers each week as possible. And then you can email that file to me at teslapodcast@gmail.com. Alternatively, you can call in and leave a message on the Ride the Lightning hotline, which you can do anytime, day or night. The number is toll-free, and it's 1-888-989-8752. Again, that's 1-888-989-TSLA. And as always, this is the part of the podcast where I mention some friends of the podcast, some affiliates that may be of use to you at some point in time. Maybe it's today, maybe it's soon, but want you to know about them just in case the right time comes. I'll start with abstractocean.com. They've got a million great, that's barely an exaggeration too, by the way. They've got so many great aftermarket accessories for your Tesla and for your Rivian as well, by the way. A lot of lighting kits in various colors and brightnesses. The tempered glass screen protectors are a big seller for them, and I can see why, because they're custom fit, and they use antimicrobial coating, and they use aluminosilicate glass, the same stuff that Corning uses for Gorilla Glass. So a lot of good stuff. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to note, they had sent along a note that they ship with the installation frame So it makes it very easy to install and get it on there exactly perfectly. And they offer a lifetime guarantee if that tempered glass, Gorilla Glass screen protector is damaged in the line of duty. So check them out, abstractocean.com. When you get there, put everything that you like into your online shopping cart. And when you get to checkout, use the coupon code RTL Podcast to get 15% off of your first order. That coupon code again, RTL Podcast. That's all one word, no spaces. Next, the Snap Plate and the Snap Plate Plus, available for all 5 Teslas that are currently in production. They are the front license plate brackets that snap on and off in seconds, but when they're on there securely, and if you want to take them off, they will leave no unsightly anything behind, be it adhesive residue or holes or anything else. So it's a good product. I do like this one. If you have to, well, legally have to, or if you want to have a front license plate on your Tesla, the Snap Plate is the one I recommend. It's up to you whether you want to go with the Snap Plate or the Snap Plate Plus. If you're curious, the Plus is strength optimized with hardened features for maximum strength, versus the regular one is safety optimized with breakaway features to sacrifice itself in a worst case scenario like a parking accident or a car wash. Both are made from recycled, made in the USA plastics with stainless steel reinforcements. You can get either one at everyamp.com/RTL. And on top of that, once you're at that site and you put whichever one you like into your online shopping cart, use the discount code RTL at checkout for a nice little discount as well on that. Thank you to the Every Amp folks for extending that discount to my audience. Immaculate Reflections is a wonderful detailer here in the greater San Francisco Bay Area that also extends a discount to my audience. And the way to do that is to simply reach out through the website, irdetailing.com. You'll see a contact submission form, and you can write to Jeff, the owner and detailer there. Tell him what you're looking to do, whether it's paint protection film on some parts of the car or all of the car. Maybe it's ceramic coating, maybe it's paint correction, maybe it's some combination of those. But whatever you're looking to do, Immaculate Reflections will take great care of your car. That much I promise you. There are 2 cars in my household that are rolling proof of Immaculate Reflections' talents and dedication. So check them out, irdetailing.com. And again, when you reach out through the website, just mention that you're a Ride the Lightning listener, and any work that you book in with them, you will get that Ride the Lightning listener discount. Finally, the Patreon. My Patreon is the primary way you can voluntarily choose to support what I'm doing here with Ride the Lightning. As you can see, however long you've been listening, I do this every single week, whether I'm in town or not. And I take it seriously. Like I said, I was saying earlier, I take it very seriously, and I want to be here for you every single week. If at some point you're willing and able to show me some support on Patreon, I would be humbled and grateful if you would consider that. My Patreon page can be found at patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. If you go there, you'll find all the information, all the different support tiers. But I'll tell you now, all the support tiers get early access to each week's episode, especially this one, since I prepared it in advance before my family left on our trip. And every Patreon tier gets an ad-free episode as well, so you wouldn't hear this right now. You just skip past that because you're already on Patreon. But the perks stack the higher you go. So in a minute, I'll give the shout out to the top tier Patreon backers. That's one of the perks they get, in addition to all the other ones. The most popular Patreon tier, the one with the most people, is the $10 per month tier. And that one gets early access, ad-free, and the entire archive, past, present, and future, of all of the lightning round bonus mini episodes that I do each week on Patreon. They're all evergreen topics, so even if you join the $10 tier today, I would say 90% of them or more are going to be just as relevant and hopefully interesting to listen to today as when I first put them out. So again, the Patreon page is patreon.com/Tesla podcast. And finally, if you're not already following the podcast, please do so on your favorite podcast service, whether that's Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, or YouTube Podcasts. And also, the referral program is back. I want to thank the number of people that have used my referral link recently to get a discount on their new Tesla. It's $500 off of a Model 3, $500 off of any remaining inventory of the old Model Y, and it's a $1,000 discount off of a Model S, Model X, or Cybertruck. So just make sure if you're ordering a Tesla, use someone's referral link. Doesn't have to be mine, but if you want to use mine, the link is in the episode description, or you can just type this into any web browser on desktop or mobile, and that is ts.la/Ryan73014. That's the short link that'll take you to my referral link, which will take you to tesla.com. From where there you choose which car you want, configure it, order it, you'll see the discount baked in, and then you'll get your car, and hopefully you'll be super happy, as I've been with my 2 Teslas. Oh, and you can follow me on X or Instagram, or both, and my username is DMC_Ryan. My podcast email address, if you'd like to reach out about any Tesla-related stuff or EV-related stuff, that email address is teslapodcast@gmail.com. Lastly, I'd like to say hello and thank you to the top tier Patreon backers, the most generous folks. I'm so grateful for the generosity of these kind listeners. And I'll start with the Roadster in Space tier. They are Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Neil Weaver, Jackson Wallace, Rolf and Jennifer Evers, Howard Anthony Smith, Victoria Iacovetto, Tesla Hitchhiker 42, Carol Weston, Robert from near Philly, American Home Contractors, GetAmber.com, Doug Carey, Rav, Michael Gallo, and Tony Figueroa. Next up, the Maximum Plaid backers. Big thanks goes out to Jonathan Wales, Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, Nick and Tony, the Galpin family, Ryan from New York City, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Brett Libano, Patrick Wisniewski, Gil Cabrera, Todd Badger, Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley, Will Stedman, Justin Perez, Jeremy Harris, Chris Beach, Tom Mills, Corey O'Donnell, Aaron, John Cody, Joel Sapp, Paul Casarino, Richard Corley, Chris Osborne, KB, Adam Lavoie, Jason Chalukas, Travis Krenzel, Bruce Otterstein, Tom Behan, Josh Pennington, John from Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Dustin Hart, Derek Finley, Charles Clement, Adam Christie, Damon Klein, Jeff Brown, Jerry Slinger, Clayton Goodfellow, Michael Mizrahi, Kenneth Corbett, and Brian Bertoglio. And last but certainly not least, the grandfathered-in Plaid level supporters. Thank you to George Cassiopo, Logan Willis, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, Dory and Steve Guberman, the Tesla Owners Club of Taiwan, Ron Lee, Charlie Gillespie, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jerome Strack, Jamie Dalton, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Ish, not Elon Musk in quotes, Peter, and the Bear Boys of Colorado. If anybody out there happened to join one of these top tiers of the Patreon between the time I recorded this and because I'm recording early, and the time it comes out, and you're wondering, wait, why didn't you shout me out? That's why, because your pledge came in after I recorded, but before the episode came out. I will get you that shout out starting next week. But I want to thank everybody for kindly contributing at any and all tiers to the Patreon. Every little bit helps, both myself and my family. You do make a positive difference in our lives, and I do sincerely appreciate that, because again, this podcast is free. You are, of the goodness of your own heart, kind enough to support me on Patreon, so I want to thank each and every one of you for that. And with that, I've come to the end of Ride the Lightning episode 504. Ooh, palindrome next week when I get back, 505. Like I said, we'll have the production and delivery numbers for Q1. That should be very interesting. We'll see where things are at with everything. The 3 and the Y number, we'll see what that looks like. And then the other, meaning SX and largely Cybertruck. So very curious what those Q1 numbers are going to be. But in the meantime, I am off with my family. I hope you have a wonderful week wherever you are, whenever you are listening to this. I will look forward to reuniting with you for episode 505. Again, totally on schedule. Everything will stay on schedule, so no worries there. But again, thank you all for kindly allowing me to step away for a little while, a little R&R with my family. I'm looking forward to it. Happy electric motoring, my friends, and I'll see you back here next week.
Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk. The guy founded PayPal and Tesla, and people are like, yeah, but he's a troll and a bad dad. I'm like, so was mine. He did nothing to fight climate change. Also, have you been in a Tesla? Have you been in a Tesla? My buddy let me drive his Tesla. I laughed out loud at how fast it went. Been clinically depressed my entire life, on dozens of medications, in a Tesla for 13 seconds, cured forever.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.